And when there is a situation like right now, a lockdown, when shops are closed, when there is no work, and when people can't earn a living, what happens is that those most weak and poor and most vulnerable people in Kabul, they suffer the most. It's like a direct hit on their well-being when they are already very weak and vulnerable. So this is like I think an important reason why I think for us as Afghans in the West and in general is to create more awareness and call to action, because this is the month of Ramadan, we are fasting. It's a month of worship and charity, and I think we need to make the situation very clear and so that people understand why there is a emergency, why there is a real major crisis in Afghanistan right now, and that it should actually motivate people to become more active and to do something, to do at least some sort of charity work, voluntary work, because obviously, as Shaira, as you mentioned, we have World Bank, we have UNICEF, we have all these major international aid organizations and institutions that are providing money and aid through the Afghan government. But we as individuals, surely we have also our own responsibility. We have our own share. We need to do something about this situation. So this is also one of the reasons we are discussing this topic today in this podcast, because we want to use this platform also to create, not just to create awareness, but also to activate people to become more involved and do something about this current crisis in Afghanistan. Because, when we sit and watch and read the news, we constantly see how situation is worsening in Afghanistan, but it also needs to activate people. So I
think one of the problems is that I was reading a report once that when charities first started to collect money, when the evangelical charities in America first started to collect money for starvation and poverty and whatever in certain parts of the world, in Africa and elsewhere, one of the things that they did, they started off by showing really shocking images of, starving babies, and that would really affect people. But then obviously we know human beings, after a while, we have hundreds of those images today. They come from all over the world. We're not affected by it because we're desensitized. And I think, we mentioned the word, the crisis. Afghanistan's got a crisis in, just under half the population internally displaced, coronavirus, whatever. But because there's been a war for the last 40 years, almost subconsciously, even Afghans have sort of started, okay, well, the country is always in a crisis. It's always been like this. But, these things actually affect real people's lives. And the lives of people, their livelihoods are increasingly endangered, not just by conflict or natural disasters, but now we've got this virus that came out of nowhere to us. So
I just wanted to mention that when the Afghan government announced the lockdown, it was many political elites and professionals. They have just supported the idea, and they were forcing people to they were pleading people to stay home and through various TV channels, etc. But the lack of planning and management, I think, has turned this lockdown into a very ineffective form of prevention of the virus in the country, because as you've mentioned previously, people have to go to seek work, because we have many people in Kabul living with who are working hand to mouth basis on basis, because they have to go and market, and they provide a one-time meal for their families, and also they have to go and do their shoppings and daily lives, as we don't have these luxuries that's available for people in developed countries, such as online shopping facilities, etc. And the lockdown as might be seen as a savior and as a privilege for some, and it's a kind of a curse for some other people who are vulnerable, and they have to actually go, because the governments are not providing. And it's not only Afghanistan. We can see neighboring countries such as Iran, such as India, Pakistan, and other countries who have the vast majority of people are underprivileged, and the lockdown is I think these type of lockdowns in these countries is achieving exactly the opposite of it was meant to do. It's achieving it's not achieving the prevention of the virus, but it's actually doing the opposite, because we've seen quite huge number of people gathering behind the bakeries, because they've been offered some kind of bread or something from the government, and it was an initiative to distribute free bread, and we've seen many vulnerables gathering behind those bakeries, and
and this spreads the virus, because these people they were in that particular image that you were discussing. I saw that as well. There were like hundreds of people in almost cramped against each other in front of a bakery, because so that's only spreads the virus.
This social distancing and these lockdowns is like sounds good and it sounds like a privilege for some, but I'm not saying that people should go out and if they're poor and if they're vulnerable,
it's just
they have to go out and seek help. I'm just saying that we need more government to take more initiative and actions to help these people, and to make sure they trust them, and make sure that they provide the basic necessities, such as clean water, such as food, such as not wheat, proper flour for them, and that was a big issue a couple of weeks ago when they distributed wheat amongst the Afghans and poor Afghans and
the 4.5 kilo, the 4.5 kilograms of grain that they were distributing.
Yes, the grain. Yes, that's what I was talking, and it created so many issues, and we've seen the weak governments, governance, and the weak institutions contributing to these problems amongst the underprivileged in the country.
Shaira, but based on your research, and your assessment of the weakness of the government in response to COVID-19 pandemic, would you say that in government's defense, they are already very dysfunctional and weak, and they already have a lot of issues.
It's a funny way of defending the government.
Yeah. Okay, but what I'm trying to say, I get it. I just you know. But what I'm trying to say is that they have their problems. The government has its share of problems, and we have a very new type of problem, this pandemic, which forces people to seek distance from one another. So would you say that the government and the NGOs may not be fully capable of providing those necessary solutions? So maybe the people in Afghanistan and Afghans outside Afghanistan should step in, because we can't just wait and expect the government to solve this problem. Maybe I think there is something. Yeah. Because what would you say?
I think the government is quite capable of dealing with this, but not only this pandemic, but many other issues in the past 19 years. What is missing, not only the strong institutions and etc., which is quite another topic for discussions, but what's missing in our society is the lack of empathy amongst our politicians towards the citizens. I've watched a couple of days ago Mr. Ashraf Ghani's interview in regards to COVID-19 and addressing the nation. You couldn't feel the connection between him and the citizens. You couldn't feel empathy. You couldn't feel sympathy in his voice. If you're comparing to him to other rulers or other head of the states around the globe, you can see that they're literally begging their citizens to stay at home. And what he's done, he was telling in a way that we're doing everything we can, and with all this, the flow of the aid that we have mentioned before and everything, we're providing free bread for you.
Yeah.
So I think,
yes, please. Please proceed. What you said? You think?
I think what else is missing, that the NGOs that have been working in Afghanistan for the past 19 years, they also have been relying on the government and their initiatives rather than going and doing research themselves, what the community needs, what the people need, what are their demands, how they preserve and see the helps they're providing, or the democracy that they want to fight for, and so many things. And I think the only thing is missing is the connection between the actual people on the ground, not the elites and Shaira now, not the elites and that you see on daily basis and on TV speaking and on going attending the UN conferences, is actual people on the ground and people living in rural areas, people who are lacking basic necessities. We have almost third of the population living under the poverty line.
How about those people who have been expelled from Iran and Pakistan in the last few years? Like, they are also part of this huge IDP community, because for the last 40 years, a lot of Afghans fled to Iran, to Pakistan. But in the last decade, how many people were deported from Iran and Pakistan? Millions of people were deported.
I think in Nawaz Sharif's time in particular, there was a real push to get them out of, Afghanistan is peaceful, go back.
Yeah.
I don't think the government actually helped the IDPs either.
No. And we had like a huge influx of people from Iran after the outbreak of COVID-19. Like, they sent like thousands and thousands of people over the border, and this is maybe also one of the reasons why we have so many infection in Herat, because
and then the government refused to lock down or quarantine Herat, even though it was obvious that the Iranians, they dumped thousands across the border. The logical step then would have been to sort of lock down Herat and introduce some measures to reduce traffic, but they did nothing. And now I think now we've got more infections in Kabul than we have in Herat. I read that on Twitter a couple of days ago. But now Kabul, which is a much larger urban metropolis, has a higher rate of infection, which is very bad news.